3 months ago, my life was just basically completely theater. But now, I don't want to say it, guys, but does live theater even exist now? It's just not what it used to be. And right now, theater isn't really something that's on the top of my mind. I mean, it'll always be something that brings me joy, but it doesn't consume me the way that it did 3 months ago. I have all these ideas and none of them have been about theater, and I'm like, oh shoot, is that part of my life gone? And no, I think that part of my life's just on hold right now.
I currently hate musical theater. I've stopped listening to show tunes, I've wiped my social media feed clear of any theater content, and I've just distanced myself from the art form in general. And that is something really odd coming from me. I'm someone who at the age of 13 knew they wanted to dedicate their life to theater. I planned on spending my youth trying as hard as I could to pursue it professionally, and even if I couldn't turn it into a career, I would still be a lifelong fan of musical theater and try to find a way to incorporate it into my adult life. But now I can't even muster myself to watch a 5-minute clip from a musical online. And this is a feeling I had almost immediately after theater started closing in March due to the pandemic. However, after a few weeks, I noticed a stark difference between my feelings towards the shutdown and the feelings of others. At this time, many of my friends really missed theater. Photos of ghost lights circled social media, and people were eager to continue to consume musicals. However, my emotions were quite different. I began to view theater as this frilly art form that was so fragile that it crumbled the second the world had a public health crisis. I would see photos of my friends doing virtual plays or virtual concerts, and I would shake my head. I could not understand people trying to continue musical theater in this new normal. Why did I suddenly have this animosity towards a community that I was a proud member of? Why was I full of so much disdain for the one thing that gave me a sense of purpose in life? I sat awake at night with this question swirling throughout my head for months, and for the life of me, I couldn't figure out a concrete answer. I just accepted that theater and I were on the outs for the time being, and I realized that it would take a while for me to fully understand my emotions. Before I begin, I would just like to make it clear that I am in no way trying to diminish the other atrocities that have occurred this year. The fact that we can't have musicals anymore is nowhere near as tragic as the loss of life from this pandemic. Every day it feels like I'm finding out about a new person that I know or my family knows that has died from this virus. And their deaths are the real issues of our time, not the loss of theater. However, theater has always been a place for people to express unfathomable emotions. If you were down, you could walk into a theater and be transported to another world for 2 hours. Art can be used to help people cope with grief. And now, many people don't have that anymore. So while the loss of theater is not as important as the loss of life, I believe that it is something that should still be discussed. And for me, I want to figure out why I abandoned my main outlet to grieve at a time that I needed to express my emotions the most. So as we approach the 1-year anniversary of Broadway's closure, I think I'm close to understanding why I had kicked musical theater out of my life. Looking back at how I reacted to the initial closure of theaters around the world, my most extreme views were the ones that I directed towards people trying to continue musical theater online. Whenever I would see an at-home benefit concert or a musical performed online, I would get angry. But why? I think an answer to my anger lies in a video that I made last fall about Halloween during the pandemic. In short, I discussed that I decided to hold a Halloween concert in my house alone rather than participating in my school's senior Halloween parade. The Halloween parade was something that I had been looking forward to for 15 years, but due to the pandemic, I couldn't do it with my friends, and there wouldn't be the typical drumline and fanfare. I went on to say that I would rather enjoy Halloween in my own way than participate in a watered down version of something that I had been looking forward to. And that's how I felt towards these Zoom musicals. Theater is inherently such a grand and freeing art form, full of actors sweating on stage and dancing for thousands of people. Now it was confined and shackled because people feared for their health. I actually choreographed and filmed a dance for a COVID benefit concert, and it was just so weird. I was performing from my wall alongside a choppy recording. I didn't feel free. I didn't feel the joy of performing. I felt alone. When I finally put 2 and 2 together and came to this conclusion that the reason I distanced myself from musical theater was because it became too constricted, I began to wonder, then why did I fall in love with ballet during the pandemic? Throughout the pandemic, ballet and dance in general has definitely filled the creative void that theater left within me. But isn't ballet also watered down now? There are no more huge ballets being staged and companies can no longer perform. Isn't the shutdown of ballet the same as the shutdown of musical theater? I believe they are different for two reasons. For one, you can get an immense amount of joy from ballet by just taking a class. Even when you're just holding on to the bar, you can make it beautiful and you can make it a performance. And once you get to the center and you're doing adagio and you are turning and you're leaping, it's the most amazing feeling in the world. And musical theater is such a unique art form that you can't really get joy from it by just taking a class. It's a combination of acting, singing, and dancing, and for me, the joy of musical theater comes when you put all of those things together into a full-scale production. People rarely teach acting, singing, and dancing together in one class, and if they do, I'm not enrolled in one. But perhaps the second difference between the shutdowns of ballet and theater is more damning. I'm sure that most ballet dancers would agree that even the most amazing ballet class cannot compare to putting on a full-scale production of a ballet, one that includes acting, costumes, an orchestra, a set, and an audience. That experience is probably much more fulfilling than just taking a class. And I would agree. However, I wouldn't know. I have never performed a ballet before in my life. I never knew the tutus. I never knew the feeling of having Tchaikovsky stuck in my head 24/7. I never experienced banging my pointe shoes with my friends in a stairwell. I never knew any of that. So when I take a ballet class, I'm not reminded of what I'm missing. When I take a musical theater dance class, I am. I knew theater when it was at its height. I knew it when it was grand. I knew it when it was extraordinary. And now, it's gone. Put on a happy face. One of the reasons that I had such a continued contempt for theater, especially in the early months of the pandemic, was because in many ways I was still part of the theater community. I basically put myself into situations where I had to pretend like I was still this huge theater nerd. The first of these was my summer job. In early 2020, I was hired as a counselor at a musical theater summer camp for kids. I was obviously very excited at the prospect of teaching kids about theater. And even though there was still a pandemic, the camp eventually opened in the summer of 2020, but with many fewer campers and many COVID safety protocols in place. However, I was still trying to navigate my strange new relationship with theater at this time, but I had to throw those feelings away so I could be a gleeful, theater-loving presence at work. Every day I would open camp with a playlist of show tunes that I hadn't listened to in months. I would teach kids about theatrical performers that I no longer cared much about, and I would choreograph dances to musicals that I had grown tired of. I never released my true feelings during camp, but when we were staging a masked, socially distant theatrical review, I was thinking to myself, what the hell are we doing? I was angry with what theater had become. Another aspect of my life where my internal conflict with theater had to be suppressed was, of course, here on YouTube. During the early stages of the pandemic, my channel began to see some traction. However, it was only getting picked up because of my theater videos. Every week, I chose to sit myself in front of my camera and struggle to feign my enthusiasm for musicals. And this made me despise theater all the more. Theater was now something so stagnant. It was something that only existed in my life on YouTube and nowhere else. It was no longer big and bright. Theater in my life had been reduced to video essays and me complaining about musical competitions. Over the course of me making videos here on YouTube, I have received many comments of people telling me, Allison, your channel will succeed if you make more videos like your Cats review. When looking at your analytics, your theater videos do the best. And I never responded to these comments because I didn't want to be rude. But sometimes I would get just so angry that I would want to say, guys, I'm not stupid. I've seen my analytics. I know I could be getting more views if I continued to make videos about theater and cats. But guess what? I can't bear cats. I can't bear musicals. And I can't bear theater right now. The reason I'm making this video is because recently I've had a change of heart. I miss theater. I miss it so much. I miss watching live theater. I miss listening to show tunes. I miss performing, but we are just going to have to wait. It is too dangerous for theater to return now, so we are just gonna have to wait. And when it comes back, I'll be there. You know, when I think about theater eventually returning, the thing that I look forward to is not actually seeing shows or listening to show tunes or even performing. It's going to rehearsals with my friends. Now, if you've watched this channel, you might be familiar with the fact that I really don't have many friends in my life. I've joked about it, but it's true. I'm an introvert. For most of my adolescence, I never had a solid group of friends. In order to hang out with certain people, I would dress a certain way or act a certain way or make jokes about things that didn't interest me. And I would always come home from school so mentally and emotionally drained from trying so hard to be someone I wasn't. And then I joined theater and I met the most amazing group of kids. I never had to pretend to be someone else around them. I could just be myself, and it was such a freeing experience, not having to think meticulously about everything I said in order to be appreciated. I met my 3 best friends in the entire world through theater at my school, and I miss them. I miss them so much. Us 4 have been taking social distancing very seriously, and I haven't seen them face to face in, it's coming up on a year. When I say I miss theater, I mean I miss the community. I miss getting sushi at midnight after a show. I miss dressing room party sessions. I miss going to a dance call and freaking out because one of my friends is there and it eases the pain. I miss my friends. Making this video was important for me because I think I need to formally say goodbye to Broadway for right now. I don't want to be cynical anymore. Theater is amazing, and once it returns, trust me, I'll be there.